So that's how I started now living outside sasa kwa streets. Literally kwa streets. Nilikuanga nalala mali giza inanipata.
For real?
Yeah.
Umetembea, umetafuta, umechoka, hapa nitalala.
Nimetafuta, nimechoka, giza imenipata hapa. Hapo. What is this? Wanaonyesha na hiyo logo yangu. Wakasema I will amount to nothing. Hiyo kitu nimejianzishia hapo online marketing, hakuna place inaenda.
Are they God? Are you God? You don't know the power of God. Greetings, Tuko family. My name is Lynn and welcome to yet another episode of Tuko Talks. Today, beautifully, I am here because I am also with someone very beautiful. And today, I hope we will not cry as much. We will not be sad as much. We're here to give a lot of hope because, well, where we are as a country, tunaona ni kama life is not life anymore. And my guest today was in a space where she was like that. But where she is now is completely different. She doesn't even want to remember the past. I think I have said enough of her story. We need to hear her story fully and understandably. Yes, Lynn, hi.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you for having us. Thank you for accepting our call. Anytime. This is your camera, baby girl. You can just tell us your name and what you do on your Monday to Monday.
So my name is Lynne The Brand, your #1 online strategist. So I'm a digital strategist, I'm a publicist, and I am a brand influencer.
Strategize my life.
It's very important to say your #1 online strategist.
Because it is only but you.
Yes, please.
What does an online strategist do?
An online strategist. So basically my work is to make sure that anything that we do online, whether we are pushing brands, we are marketing a product, we are marketing, I don't know, anything, but my work is to make sure that we do them strategically. So you have to come up with strategies. You don't just wake up and like kitambo, when we used to wake up and then when we get to online, we post things for the sake of posting. So my work is to make sure that I come up with strategies. Even if it's one post I want to post,
it has to be strategically posted. Before you got to where you are right now, before you became this gorgeous girl with the lashes, tell us about who Lynn was before. Not Lynn the brand, but Lynn.
Well, actually this is my first time to do like an interview talking about who Lynn was back then, because I think a lot of people assume that Lynn the Brand alitoka tu mahali akaanguka akiwa Lynn the Brand.
And boom.
So people don't know my story, but actually I started off, I come from a very humble background. We are a family of 4, in total 3 kids and my mom. So I have been raised by a single parent. Not that my dad is not around, he is, but you know, it is what it is.
He's around but not around.
Yeah, so me and my 2 brothers, I'm the only girl.
Baby girl.
So yeah, so we come from a very humble background. Growing up, it was very, very, very extremely tough because now I'm the firstborn.
Okay.
I'm the firstborn, and then now my 2 brothers behind me. So I don't even know where to start from. So my mom she's still a teacher. She used to be a teacher. I'm a teacher for a long
time.
Yeah, for a long time. And she is like, her job for a while, it has not been, you know, paying well and all that. So you can imagine taking care of 3 kids by yourself, no help, nothing. So it was really tough for us. It was a struggle, and at some point we were even branded like ile familia kuombaomba.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so it was that tough.
And you guys were born and raised in, not in Nairobi? Nakuru, okay.
Yes, we were born and raised in Nakuru. So ile familia kuombaomba, because you know my mom sometimes she hana pesa, so, and there is no parent who would want to see her kids suffer and all that, so she can go to an extra mile just to make sure that tuko na food. So ataomba, of course, sasa kama hana what else,
there's nothing, hataiba, so ataomba.
So it reached a point, ata calls hazishikwi and all that, including pia some of our relatives, like ilikuwa hata kupick calls zetu ni noma.
Wanajua hii simu
huyu anataka kuomba, tena anaomba, wacha tusishike, you know. So it was really tough, and it reached a point where we built a wall, and we were living in our own cocoon, me and my brothers and my mom, because now tukishaleboliwa familia kuombaomba, nobody wants to help you, so it was just us against the world. With all those struggles, sometimes you're being chased out of school because of school fees and all that, but she made sure even with hizo challenges, mnafukuzwa ataenda watetee urudishwe shule, she made sure that at least tulisoma mpaka tukamaliza shule. Of course na deni,
of course
kuchukua hata results on time because tulikuwa na deni and all that. Yeah, but tukamaliza shule on time. Then she went ahead, and because mi ndio nilimaliza, I was the first one to finish high school, so she went ahead and really tried to look for something that I can do and all that, and she was like, what are you passionate about? Me, I'm passionate about fashion, vitu kaa hizo. So
in your space of no money, no nothing, unafikiria fashion.
Bado nafikiria fashion, you know. So
fashion ni passion.
Siku moja nitakuwa tu designer mwingine. Things are different now. Hata sijui, mi si designer,
but you're strategizing something else. You're designing something else.
Yes. So she really tried her best. Akatafuta shilingi 2 hapa kule, nikaenda college. Then somewhere along the way school fees ikakosa kabisa, so hata tukumaliza college yenyewe. Like nilisoma for, I think it was like 4 months or something.
You went to study your fashion. Okay.
So tukaacha. So it reached a point whereby I felt like, as the firstborn, I think I'm supposed to be helping my parent at this point, because nimemaliza shule. Then nilikuwa na feel guilty because it's like tuko watu wakubwa wote hapo, mimi nangoja anitafutie food, yeye anafaa kutafutia my brothers, she is struggling, you know. It was really hurting me, like ilikuwa so painful to watch her go through all that, and I decided to start tamaking sasa. So my first job, the first job that I got, ilikuwa in a dairy. No, it was kuuza popcorns first. So I was a popcorn vendor.
In Nakuru?
In Nakuru, yes. So back then zilikuwa 10 bob. So unaona hawa watu wa popcorns wenye wanasimamanga hapo nje ya
supermarket.
Yes, so I was those two girls. And my salary, it was 2,500
per month.
Per month. Per month.
Hiyo sasa
2,500.
And let me ask Lynn, before even you got to a space where you are you're trying to look for money for your mom. When you're young, you said, of course, it was a single family. When you're young, is there a point you asked your mom, and why isn't my dad being present? Or is it that you grew up knowing there's no, we jua tu, akuna, don't ask me?
Now, my story is different kidogo, because it's not that I don't know the reason as to why my dad was not present. We were raised in a family full of domestic violence. So I used to see, like me, we have been raised with both parents up until maybe class 6.
Wow. So all this time you can see the violence. Because class 6 ni mtoto mkubwa.
You can see we used to cry. And there was nothing we could do. Yani, vita pale ya kamansi, no? So your domestic violence, tumelelewa kwa hiyo environment. Like, sisi tumelelewa ile environment yenye hatujui, like ile fatherly love ni kusema nini, we have no idea. Yet we had the father there. So sisi tumelelewa ile environment yenye ukimuona, ukimsikia anakuja, tunakimbia, tunaingia chini ya bed. It was that serious.
You know, these are stories we have to ask. Oh, you see memes saying, oh, baba kingia mnengia chini ya kitanda.
This was serious. This was me. Tukisikia tu ndio huyu anakuja, kila mtu ana disappear. Let me tell you, even if we were eating, tutaacha. Because tunajua tu vita itaanza, like makosa itatafuta tu kidogo, hata like something very small, and that's it.
Na pia nyinyi mnachapwa.
Ilikuwa inaanza hivi.
Kai.
Ikiteremka. Inaanza kwa mom, ikituteremkia. So sisi actually mahali sisi tulikuwa tunaingilia kuchapwa ni ile kutry like stop beating mom, wacha kumpiga nini, pia
mnaongea nini.
So ilikuwa hivyo. So it was really tough. So growing up until class 6 nimeona hiyo yote. So vile tulifika class 6, that's when my mom said, hey, enough is enough. Because parents will try their best, especially women, like, let me just stay because of my kids. Wacha tu nivumilie because of my kids, but it reaches a point.
Enough is enough.
Enough is enough.
These are stories we hear and you're just like, wow, but it's important again to emphasize that we can be out here saying, I'm doing this for my kids, but your kids are suffering more mentally and physically, more than
really
that help.
Mentally, it really affected us. Personally, it affected me. Mpaka it reached a point I used to fear, I literally fear men.
Oh no. Because that's the picture you have of a man.
Yes.
Oh no.
It really affected me. So I started now looking for something else, another job. Nikapata ya dairy. So kuuza like hiyo maziwa ya kupima. Zile zilikuanga back then, it used to be like a cup was 10 shillings, 20 bob hizo. So hiyo at least kasalari kalipanda mpaka kitu 3,000 hapo.
Mimi nimengoja niambia ilipanda kaka 10k.
Unangoja 10.
Ai, 3.
Tricky. 3,000. So I hustled and then it reached a point like I was really looking for, something that can give me at least good money, at least nisikie tu nafanya kitu, So even as I'm working in a dairy, I was still looking for something else. Even as I'm working as a popcorn vendor, I'm still looking for. So sasa hiyo sijui kama ni kupanda ama kushuka, nikaanza kuuza chipo mwitu.
Hiyo ni kupanda. Unaenda hivi. Waru is very important in this our nation.
Waru is important. So nikaanza kuuza chipo mwitu. Back then ilikuwa 5 bob, 10 bob.
What? My God.
Zile enzi za mtu anatoboa kashimo hapa kwa karatasi bas.
When life was so simple. 5 bob.
5 bob.
Sai chips imepanda ni I think 150.
Sai ukikula chips wewe ni so mkuu.
You are rich.
You're very rich. Yeah. So I did your job ya chipo for a while. Then it reached a point I was like, hapana. Yani things are not moving kabisa. Like, I felt like I was very stagnant. Easy jobs napata ziko na pesa zingine zenye hazisaidii the way I want to help. Unajua. So one day I just woke up na risk. Nikaambia tu mother like a joke. Mimi na feel kama things are not working for me in this town at all. And I really don't want to be a burden to you. I really want to be of great help. And it really pains me nikiona like una struggle with it. Hakuna vile naweza help. Jobs nimetafuta and all that, but sasa jobs napata. So I felt like, Nakuru is not my town, to be honest.
City girl.
So I woke up and I called my mom. We sat down, nikamwambia mom, najua mimi nimeona things are not working for me in this town. Please allow me to go to another town. Nione if I can make something out of myself.
You didn't know anyone in Nairobi?
No.
Where?
No, I didn't know anyone in Nairobi. So nashindwa mother anashindwa sasa how will you survive? I'm like, me I don't know mom, but wacha tu niende nijaribu. Ikikataa niko hapa, I'll come back. So that's when she told me that sijui kuna auntie yangu mgani wasijui wapi anaishi Nairobi. So let me try and talk to her. Don't know if she can host you, maybe mpaka ukwe stable. And I was like, sawa. So she called my aunt and that was that. So my aunt agree and all that. Of course nilimuomba fare cause siku hata na bob. At least nikuje nianze life. So when I came, I started living at my aunt's place, but now I was tamaking because now sasa nimekuja kuanza from square zero.
You need to look for something.
I am in a new city, sijui watu, sijui anything, sijui place ya kuanzia, but nilikuwa najua nita have to kuanza, like there's no option. So I started tamaking. I used to wake up every morning natembea
Like literally tamaking.
Literally tamaking. Nitaingia mpaka kwa supermarkets, kwa shops, kuuliza mkona vacancy, mnaweza nipea job hivyo. So one day nimetoka tu hizo tamaking zangu, like I stayed at my aunt's place for around 6 months thereabout. So one day nimetoka hizo tamaking zangu, and you know, of course I was eating her food. Akako nyumba yake analipa rent and everything, hakuna kitu natoa juu bado sina job, so I was not helping in any way. So one day nimetoka tamaking zangu, and kufika home nilifika around 7 PM hapo. So kufika home nikapata vitu tangu tumerushiwa na hapo nje.
It's time.
Sasa imefika. And the small child wake ananiambilia kwa window, mama amesema masaa yako ya kuishi huku imeisha.
It's not even her who told you. Alituma mtoto wake mdogo.
Ndiye ananiambilia hapo, mama amesema masaa yako ya kuishi huku imeisha. So I'm like, naanzia wapi? You know? Yani I have not made friends bado, sijapata job, hata sijui naanzia wapi. Bado hata sijajua hata hii Nairobi yenyewe poa. Nairobi ni kubwa. So nashindo, okay, so naanzia wapi? So I just sat there hapo nje tu na nguo zangu, and I started crying.
Because what else? You in a space of what is all this? Kai.
Unashindo. And at that time, my mom is calling. My mom is like, hey, Nairobi nakupeleka aje? Niko like, niko poa.
You don't want to show her that it's tricky.
Because of the way, the kind of situation that we had back then, is a domestic violence na nini. So it affected her health. So alipatanga blood pressure. So sahi, like you're like anything kidogo hivi ita trigger. So hakuna haja.
Niko sawa.
So yeye anasema niko sawa, niko nje. You know? And so I sat there, I started crying, and then kuna neighbor aliona hiyo scenario yote. Alikuwa think ametoka job or something, alikuwa anaenda kuingia home. So aliona huyo mtoi akiniambia venye mama amesema, then yeye aliingia tu kwa nyumba. Vile alitoka, the next thing aliona ni nikilia tu hapo nje. So she was kind enough, akaniambia nichukue nguo niingie kwake. So nikaingia kwake, and she's like, okay, what happened? So I'm there, I'm narrating my story, I'm crying. So she's like, you don't know anyone? You don't have any other relative? I'm like, Aki, honestly, I don't know anyone. I don't even know where to go to from here. So she started making calls, and she called one of her relatives when she was a young girl. So the neighbor was like a woman who has a family and all that. Okay. So the relative that she called, she was just a young girl mwenye anajikaisha and all that. So akamwambia situation yangu, akamwambia story yangu, and she was requesting her to please anichukue, at least I stay at her place, but at least kama naweza nikiwa stable enough, then tutajua from there. And luckily enough, the cousin accepted. So these are strangers.
God's grace.
These are strangers.
Yeah.
Na mwenye amenitupa nje ni
mtu wako.
Blood, you know. So God really used her, because sasa hiyo siku aliniambia tu, because ni usiku, of course she can't come and pick you sahi and all that. So you'll spend your night here, then tomorrow atakama kupick and all that. So the following day akakuja akanipik, so tukaanza sasa kuishi kwake. Then one day God come through. Hey, hallelujah.
Amen.
Nikapata job as a merchandiser in a supermarket. Then job yako ni ku move from one outlet to another. Ukipanguza vumbi nini unapanga shelf. Kama watu wamenunua, unaenda store, unajaza shelf. Unatoka unaenda kwa another outlet.
You've seen them hapo kwa supermarket.
You've seen them? Sasa.
That was Lynn.
That was Lynn now. So hapo salary ilipanda because ilikuwa 8K.
Wow. From 2.5.
Why?
God
Don't
is good.
Joke. God is good. The salary was 8,000. But sasa 8,000 because outlets zangu nilikuwa nimepewa back then, Nakumatt supermarket ndo zilikuwa. So nilikuwa nimepatiwa naishi umo, but nimepatiwa outlet za Ngong Road, Mombasa Road, mpaka huko Kitengela. So hii 8,000
fair imeisha. I mean from Umoja to Ngong Road to Kitengela.
So you can imagine fair imeisha. So but nilikuwa na najua economy. Nilikuwa na try ku squeeze place naweza tembea, at least natembea kidogo, place naweza panda gari hivyo. So when I got my first salary, nikajiambia I think pia because of what had happened with my aunt ilini affect kidogo, so naogopanga sana kukaa kwa watu. So I was like, in as much as we are help pia staki kuova, she was okay kabisa and everything, but ndio ile ka respect kabaki. Let me do something my first salary. So nikatafuta kanyumba pale, nikasema since roots zangu zinaanzia Ngong Road, acha nitafute nyumba iko na hizi side za Ngong Road. Nikaenda mpaka huko a place called Waithaka, kwa at least na kuna tu nyumba tu cheap chenye nilikuwa nataka, you know. So past Kawangware huko. So my first house nikaipata huko Waithaka, kwa kanyumba fulani hapo kama bati, wacha tu mabati.
Okay.
And sikuwa na kitu, by the way, nilimove tu na nguo, nikaanzia tu from scratch. So nilitafuta tu kaleso, ndo nikaonga natandika chini, nikaenda kwa shop nikaomba cartons hizi kubwa 2. So nikatoanisha, alafu nikazitengeneza hivi zikiwa flat. So unajua vile unatoanisha carton alafu
una flatten.
So that was my bed and my kaleso. Nilikuwa nasikia fit aje wewe.
Unasema uko kwako.
Nasema niko kwangu. So that was my life.
My God.
So the boss used to frustrate me sana. Then one day he's like, so nataka kukuongezea mshahara na nataka kukupandisha cheo. So he wanted to promote me na ati aniongezee mshahara. But you know, you have to sleep with me, I don't know what. I think you know, at that point I was very desperate. I think someone could just see, like I was very desperate. Nilikuwa ile position yenye aki hapana, milango zifunguke. So I think he noticed or something. So akaja huko mchukulia advantage ni one time. So nataka nikupandishe cheo na nikuongeze salary and you in return you'll be sleeping with me, or nikufute job.
So there's no orubaki
kata alafu ubaki to job.
Oh no.
So mambo tu ni mbili. So I was like, hapana. Nikamwambia tu acha ni resign. So I resigned because pia alikuwa ni mzee one. Then secondly, growing up with all those problems, I think one thing that I have always told myself is I will be successful without using shortcuts. Like I've always wanted to be an example to young girls, you know, to be an encouragement and just, you know, show young girls that you can make something out of yourself without having to use shortcuts. Najua. Because hata huyo baba hizo pesa akonazo alitafuta tu. Like he's not special. He has 2 hands like me. Macho ni mbili, you know. So having put such kind of principles in place, so hizo ndio vitu kwa zinani drive kuwa like hapana, I will not compromise. Na bado niko kwa kichwa, niko na zile responsibilities zangu. So nikarudi sasa back to tamaking again. So nikaanza kutamak and rent ikapile to up to around 3 months. Haikuwa mobile kwa ngatuka 2,000, so ikakuwa 6K. That was a lot.
That's a lot.
Kuipata ilikuwa shida. So rent ikapile and now tukaanza kusumbuana na landlord. So the landlord offered me the same thing enye huyu mzai mwingine alini offer. So the landlord was like, deni yako imekuwa kubwa sana, so tutafanya aje? Hauna job? Because nilikuwa nashinda nikimwambia leo nimetoka kutafuta sijapata, lakini na hope tu nitapata siku moja nita clear deni yote. So he was like, hapa hakuna hopes, hautaipata pesa ya ku clear hiyo deni, so wacha tuimalize hivi. you sleep with me, ni toe hiyo deni yote uanze afresh.
Afadhali ni ufanye juu chini.
Afadhali.
But not this.
So I was like, I promise nita clear. So one day alikasirika. So mi nimetoka kutamak, nimerudi kwa nyumba, and then the house ilikuwa ile ni ya mabati but mlango ni ya chuma. So unaweza ingisha hivi kamkono ufungue. So nimefunga hivi, it was around 7 p.m. So nimeifunga hivi and nasikia mtu akifungua. Guess who? Alifungua akaingia kwangu na kifua. So
this man.
So he was like, nimeshinda nikikwambia ways of kutoa hiyo rent unakataa. So today it will be by force.
Today is the day.
So now he started being violent. Akanishika hapo by force, akaniangusha and all that. And he was actually, ilikuwa imebaki kidogo hivi, he was about to have his way, because siwezi mshinda nguvu.
He's a man.
Yeah,
he has the strength.
So kitu tu iliniokoa ni nduru yangu. So niliscream, and of course alijua watu wakitoka wamuone ni yeye italeta shida. So akahepa. So bila alihepa watu wakatoka, watu wanakuja kundiza, what is it? I'm in shock, I'm shaking, I'm crying. Yani, so at that point I was tired na life kabisa.
Because it's hitting you left, right and center.
I was tired na life, like I was, mimi nimechoka kabisa. Yani, ata even when people were asking me what's up nini, that was the only statement that I kept, that was the only thing that I kept saying. Mimi nimechoka na maisha. So hata siwaambii nini imehappen. Mimi niko tu like, mimi nimechoka na maisha. So a neighbor there ako, huyu vile anaongea vitu kimwacha hivi peke yake, something happened.
I'd think the same.
So akasema tu acha nichukue kuja tu tukae hapa home o relax kwanza. So she's trying to talk to me, staki kwenda kwake. Like at that point nilikuwa tu nataka waniache. Kitu yote yenye naweza fanya tu ni, I was tired. Aisha, I was tired. Like nilikuwa na feel tu hapa. Yani mimi ndio niliandikiwa mashida kwa hii dunia.
Sema problem equals Lynn. Lynn equals problems.
Problems, you know. So the neighbor took me in, tukafunga kwangu, and that day I spent the night kwake. So in the morning nikamka, bado what had happened ilikuwa imeni traumatize kidogo, so bado nilikuwa nakaa. But nikajikaza, nikaenda home, nikashower, back to tamaking, because then again siwezi kaa tu, like sina do, sina so back to tamaking. And that day when I came back usiku, sasa ule landlord alikuwa amejam.
Sasa unaharibu ile plan alikuwa na.
Alikuwa amekasirika vibaya. So I remember I came back at around 9 p.m. and it was raining. Nikapata kifuli kubwa sana kwa mlango, amenifungia hao. So I went and knocked kwake, najaribu kuplead, nimwambie tu it's raining, sina place ya kwenda. So acha tu at least nifungulie, hata nilale tu hapo then kesho. Akakataa. Akasema it's either unipe hiyo pesa yangu yote ya 3 months sai ndio nifungue mlango, la sivyo sifungue. So amefungia everything, like I only had what I had on peke yake, like nguo zote kile, mpaka namwambia si nifungulie tu basi nichukue hata kama ni nguo moja. Alikataa. So mimi nikakaa tu hapo nikinyeshewa, maanake sina kitu ya kufanya. Nikanyeshewa. Actually nilikaa hapo nje, alafu you know it was single, zile zenye the washroom is outside. So usiku around midnight there about, kuna neighbor alikuwa anaenda washroom. Kaniona tu hapo nje, nimejikunja tu hivi, nikanyeshewa tu, natetemekea hapo. Akaniambia tukuje huku ulale, and then like yani it was so weird vile people who are coming through for me were strangers.
And people hata I'm sure ujaiongelesha wewe neighbor yako. Mtu hi.
Ni hi. Basa anaona vile yake wewe ananyeshewa hapa. So ako like, mbona uko nje? Nikamwambia mimi nimefungiwa nyumba. Akasikia vibaya, so she was like, kuja ukae ulale huku, then kesho you'll figure something out. Yeah, so I spent the night huko kwa neighbor. Then the following day alinisaidia hata nguo zake juu sasa sina nguo kabisa.
Zimefungiwa.
So the following day niko like back to Tamake. So nikamwambia tu acha niende nitafute tu job, na sasa utakaa wapi? I'm like mimi sijui. But God atamake a way too. So that's how I started now living outside sasa kwa streets. Literally kwa streets. Nilikuanga nalala maligiza inanipata.
For real?
Yeah.
Umetembea, umetafuta, umechoka, hapa nitalala.
Nimetafuta, nimechoka, giza imenipata hapa. Hapo. So hivyo literally. Because sasa siko na place ya kuenda. So
and you can't afford rent now. Yeah.
So tule tu giza ikinipata hapa, natafuta shop iko karibu, and then you know those two shops zenye ziko na kabench hapo nje. So to bench ndio tulipanga bed yangu sasa. And that was now story of my life. So nikaanza kutafuta job za kufua. So nilikuwa nagonganga. So na mademu gonga from one house to another. Naweza kuwa na kazi ya kufua nisaidie. No, that was me. Nikipata na nilipwa ruabe yangu polite.
Unaenda.
Nalala nje hiyo siku, the following day naamka naenda natafuta.
For how long did you stay in the streets?
I stayed in the streets for 6 to 7 months.
God. I will not lie to you, it's shocking. Can you, like, even looking at you like this, and you telling me for 6 months you've been living in the streets. For months you are knocking on doors to wash and go, because what else will you do?
Nothing.
So now from umemalizana na street life, at what point did you sound weird to say you left the streets? Not the streets we usually talk about, but like genuinely, literally the street. At what point did you leave the street?
So after the 6 months, hizo nikitufanya tu hizo job za kufua nini. So nikapigiwa simu one day, and mtu alinipigia ni one of the ladies that we used to do na yeye zile jobs zangu za merchandising with the other companies. Because sasa vile nilipata, I was very open with that lady, and I told her my situation. Nikamwambia ukweli, kukuja nitakuja, but hivi ndio mambo iko kwa ground, you know. So nikamwambia everything, and she was like, kuja, then after the interview I can go with you to my place, then jipanga. So I started the job, then I started living with her. Nikapata salary yangu ya first, nikatafuta tena nyumba yangu nyingine. Hii nayo ilikuja ikiwa chini ya ile cause ilikuwa 7K. So nikatafuta sasa kahao Kibera. Kwa sasa huko nilikuwa natafuta places pesa yangu inaweza tosha. Yeah, so nikaanza sasa kuishi. So remember I started again from scratch, because remember nikifungiwa ile nyumba kila kitu ilikuwa huko. So nikikuja huku tena nilianza tena from scratch. At least nilikuwa nimebuy kama mattress nini. So nilianza na zile carton tena still kuomba box kwa duka hivyo. So nika stay in Kibera. Maisha yangu ya Kibera ilikuwa interesting. Like nyumba ilikuwa inakaa hivi, inamea mushroom ndani. Like it was very interesting.
Inamea mushroom ndani? Watu walikuwa sema health hazard. Bora unalala.
Inamea mushroom ndani huko kwa ukuta. So hiyo ilikuwa 1500. Nilikuwa sawa, nilikuwa nimeomoka.
Lakini uko kwako?
Sicheze. Uko kwangu. Yeah, so I stayed in Kibera. At least hapo nilikaa, nikafanya hii job yangu ya merchandising, nikaifanya until time fulani when I realized I was so passionate about stories za online and all that. So ikafika mahali nikaanza tu like najipata tu hata time ya job ni for online, you know. Yeah, and hapo Kibera, that plot used to be my, not used, it is still my grandfather's plot, but the people who are managing it were my aunts. So yes, my aunts, his daughters. So hata ile 1500, because hii kulipwa hii salary ya huku ya merchandising ilikuwa pia sometimes inakuja, sometimes inachelewa. So sometimes rent inachelewa tu, kawaida bila rent inaweza chelewa. You don't want to know how those people are treating me. They are my family. Wanakuja usiku, au manti zangu wanakuja kaa wawili. wanasimama tu hivi kwa ploti hapo mahali wanaanza kuniita na jina langu wako like enda utafute mahali utaishi for free. Huwezi ishi huku kama ulipi rent. Aibu. So unajua kila mtu, you know those kinds of plots. Kila mtu anatoka.
Tutakusikia hivi. Sasa huyu nani huyu? Tunaangalia nini?
Kila mtu anataka kuona huyu ni nani anaishingi huku bila kulipa rent. Wanavuta tension. Yaani nalia mpaka nashindwa, lakini si nafaa kwa watu wetu surely. What is it jamani? Like I received a lot of, nitasema nini, like all the bad things is of it and all
from
that. Sadly, it was from my family. Sadly.
And the good people are strangers. The good watu come live at my place, come eat here, and complete strangers.
Complete strangers. Because wale tafuta plot yako yenye utaishi, sijui huku huwezi ishi guy. Wamekuja 8. Unajua 8
kila mtu ako home. Guy. So kaanza online.
Nikaanza sasa online. Hata sikuianza at that particular time, but I didn't even know that this is something you can do and make money out of it. Mimi nilikuwa tu najua napenda hizo stories za online. And at that time nilikuwa sikuwa hata nimeingia Instagram, sikuwa Twitter, ilikuwa tu Facebook.
Facebook has really held us. From 2003 when niliangalia, I joined Facebook in 2009. I was like, I was a young girl. Nilijua je Facebook.
Nayo tuliingia kitambo. So back then nilikuwa tu Facebook, but nilikuwa so passionate. Kila time niko Facebook naangalia vitu zimepostiwa, naangalia najipata na post nini hivyo. So I used to post sana, like nilikuwa na ka syndrome fulani, nikiona either mtu ana post something about an event or something, naanza kupost pia kwa page zangu tu.
You don't even know about that event, nikile tu umesoma hapo.
Yani I don't even know about it. Nikile tu nimesoma niko like, hii inakaa interesting, wacha nimsaidie kupush.
Na umjui.
Mimi simjui, anijui. Hivyo. So I did that, and then one day the same lady that called me for this job. Akaniambia kuna event fulani ilikuwa nini? Awards. Sijui ilikuwa awards za nini. So ilikuwa ina happen mahali hapo Sarakasido. So she was like, twende unipeleke. So back then yeye at least alikuwa ameanza alikuwa anajuana na some few people kwa industry na nini. Mimi nilikuwa very green, mimi yani nilikuwa focused na kimi nataka kitu nanipea pesa. Mimi mambo za industry mimi sitambui. So she was like nipeleke, nika decide kumpeleka. So when we went there tukapata kina back then sasa external.
There was a point Stadella was
you know. So I'm like, when extern, and apparently walikuwa wanajuana. So the lady introduced us. So she was like, huyu anaitwa extern, huyu anaitwa Lynn nini. And vile extern aliambiwa jina yangu, he was like, nimeona hiyo jina sana Facebook. Nimeona hiyo jina sana. Do you know you can actually earn from what you've been doing? Mimi nashindwa earn. Mimi nimekuwa nikijibamba.
It's just for laughs, just for fun.
Aje. So he was like, yeah, you can actually earn from it. So I was very curious, nitaka kujua juu yenyewe nataka do.
That earn.
You know? Yeah, that earn is very important. So he told me, I'll give you an assignment. Do you have a Twitter account? Twitter? Hiyo sijui ni nini. Instagram sina, nilikuwa tu na Facebook. Akaniambia atanipatia assignment nifanye research yangu, nijue how to open an account ya Twitter na Insta. Sana ya Twitter. Then akaniambia nikishajua how to open, nijaribu nione vile naweza pata hata 200 followers, then I look for him. So now that's where it all started. Because sasa mimi na curiosity. Nikaanza
hii nafaa ni wacha
sasa pelekana nayo. So nikaanza kufanya my research and all that. Then nikafungua my Twitter account. And mind you, hiyo time nilikuwa natumia itel fulani. Enye storage is a problem. Ukitaka kutumia Twitter una uninstall Facebook. Yani haiwezi carry more than one app.
No.
Ni noma. So una delete Facebook, una install Twitter. Ukitaka kutumia WhatsApp, like hiyo ndio ilikuwa form. Nilikuwa na delete Facebook na install Twitter.
Ukimaliza na Twitter una install unarudi Facebook. Ulikuwa kazi. That was work.
It was work. So nikafungua my Twitter account and he had told me ni hustle for 200 followers. So mimi na ile research yangu nilipiga hatari. Niligrowisha account yangu. By the time nilikuwa nasema natafuta extern, nilikuwa nishafikisha kama 1000.
Uongo. Mimi hata Twitter mpaka leo Lynn sina 1000. You need to look for me and strategize my Twitter because
I need to look for you. Tunafaa tukae chini.
1,000 that's a lot.
Nilipambana 1,000. So I decided wacha sasa nimtafute. But your time nikimtafuta sikumpata. So I think God used him for that
to
specific
open your
purpose.
eye, yeah.
Because I looked for him sikumpata tena. So nikabaki hapo na Twitter yangu na shindo sasa niko na Twitter next. So nikaanza tu sasa kufanya research zangu na angalia story ya hashtags nini like that. But now ile kitu aliniambia that I can make money out of it iliniingia sana. So nikakuwa so extremely now passionate about your story ya online. Twitter sasa na Facebook siko bado hata install Instagram. So nikakuwa sasa na push sana ikafika mahali I started now pushing vitu za watu sasa kabisa ile vizuri online bila wao kunijua. Like sasa nilikuwa like itabidi hii pesa vile niliambiwa naweza tengeneza mimi sijui ni aje but itabidi to try. Itabidi to try. So nikapost. I remember there was a time Laura Karira alikuwa anafanya album launch. So I really posted those posters up to date naziangalianga Facebook nasema naendanga kuzitafuta kizinanikumbushanga.
Shout out to Laura. We went to high school with Laura. So she was younger than me but you could see that's her line of work. Alikuwa anapenda sana kuimba. Praise and worship, see you. Sisi tunaimba tuko tu let Laura do her thing.
Yeah, so it was her first album launch. Nilipush, nilimarket mpaka they were like ni nani? So wakanitafuta actually mpaka nika show up for the event. Hivyo sasa now that's how now I started kupanda pole. So it reached a point nikachukua risk. Mimi ni risk taker. Nikasema hii job yangu ya 7,000 achane nayo. Ni focus huko online. So naacha hiyo job but bado online si ati nimeshika bado. So nikaacha tu nikaanza online sasa vizuri. So I pushed myself for like 1.5 karibu 2 years. I was just doing pro bono. Like I was working on building a brand, like a name that people can trust, a name that because hakuna mtu ata work nawe kama
una portfolio. Especially with your work.
So I was doing pro bonos na push najituma na push ni kama natumwa. Na sasa hiyo nahitaji data for this like 1.5 hizo pro bono nilikuwa nafanya. It was pro bono, yes, but nikipata watu wawili watatu wale wana feel lakini wamepush sana wananipushia kitu. I get. So that's how I used to survive. So I pushed and it reached a point sasa kajina kakaanza kujulikana and then sasa nikakuwa naadiwa kwa hizi ma WhatsApp groups. Back then WhatsApp group ilikuwa big deal. Ukiona umeadi WhatsApp group.
Siku hizi tuna blog hata tutaki.
So that's now when I started thinking of what to call myself. Nitajipea jina gani hivyo. So Lynne The Brand vile ilikuja nikatengeneza mpaka logo. I launched it online. I was like, now
Lynne The Brand is
officially
here.
This is what I'll be doing nini. Ile ministry nilikuwa yenye nilitoka. Sasa nikakuwa sasa topic of discussion kwa meza hapo. Nilikuwa tu sasa na story like what is this? Wanaonyesha na hiyo logo yangu. Wakasema I will amount to nothing. Hiyo kitu nimejianzishia hapo online marketing hakuna place inaenda.
Are they God? Are you God? You don't know the power of God. You don't know who's praying for Lynn.
You don't know. You
how
don't know.
the kneeling she's been doing.
Same thing yenye ilisemekana nikitoka Nakuru na ile pastor mwingine, because my mom used to bind those words ako like hizo curses hazitawaka hapa. Was like ati my blessing was tied in Nakuru. Uko Nairobi things will not work. Ndarudi tu uko na mashida, you know. So it was the same thing, and I was very bitter because nilikuwa nashindwa. I mean, as my man of God, surely
the least you could do is support him.
It's support.
Yeah.
You know? So I was very bitter. Hata na watu wa church nashindwa, hii ni kanisa gani surely? Kwani mnaombanga Mungu mgani? Yani
shubali.
Yeah, but I used to cry. Pilo yangu hiyo siku kama ingeongea. Nilikuwa nganalia. I think up to date nikikumbuka hizi hata sijui aje sijalia mpaka sasa hivi, but niliona machozi zinaweza kumbuka inasema sasa Lynn. Yani nikikumbuka hizi vitu I think na kuanga too emotional because I'm like hizi ni so many problems for one person to handle. Unajua, so your time they said all the negative words that they could say about the logo, about the online marketing, about whatever, kila kitu. So actually at some point they even got to me, so I was like, am I at a wrong move?
Maybe it's not God's plan for me. Yeah.
But kitu ingine inaniambia hapana, waendelea tu na. Yeah, so somewhere along the way sasa hapo ndio job ya LJ Masai come, because LJ alinitafuta because of, so back then he had one groove something. So alikuwa anafanya Thanksgiving event. Alikuwa anafunga. Actually alikuwa anaifanya Koinange Street. So alikuwa anafunga street.
There's Kenyatta, there is why Koinange? Because Koinange is not, back then it was not such a good name. But he was doing gospel.
Anataka avute hao watu side ya God. He was doing gospel.
That's a very bold move, but anyway it worked.
It worked. So wakanitafuta at least nimfanyie marketing, nifanyie hiyo event trend and all that. Hapo nikajituma, nikawak, and everybody was impressed. By the time event ilikuwa inaisha, kila mtu anataka hapa online, nani anakushughulikia online? Lynn. And sasa God used that particular job to open now hizi doors zingine zote zenye amekuwa akifungua.
Mpaka sasa
pole tu sasa tukafika mahali at least tukahama Kibera, tukaenda tukisonga.
So which names have you worked with? The big brands. I know you've worked, as you said, LJ. Now, Sasa, this is your time to shine with them.
This is my time to shine.
Shine with those people you have worked with.
Hallelujah.
Because they're very big names.
Yeah, so I have worked with so many people. So LJ Masai, I have worked with Guardian Angel.
I knew. Why not to say Guardian Angel? So watch out, because it's a big name.
Yeah.
Actually, when I said knowing about you, before even I started working where I was working before, I said, no, I was told, oh, it's someone called Lynn who's working with Guardian. I was like, hey, okay.
Yeah, so I have worked with LJ, Guardian Angel, Masi Masika. I have worked with Willie Paul. I have...
I think now you need to go back and do something about him. Strategize his online presence.
Unataka tulete shida pale online.
Mimi nataka tu urudi. Just go back and work with Willie Paul, because the online presence, he needs some strategy.
So I have worked with Ekodida. I have worked with Evelyn Wanjiru. I have worked with, who else? I'm currently also working with Moji Shot Baba. Ni wengi, Ben Saiko, Wanjiru. Nani? Like I have worked with, I don't know, so many people. Both gospel. I think clientele yangu imekuwa gospel.
Yeah.
Gospel sana. So nimejipata like in the gospel, Jabidi, Timeless. Side ya gospel, I don't know ni nani sija work nae, because I think nimewaka karibu kila mtu. So yeah, I have worked with majina kadhaa, Jabidi, Timeless, Guardian, Masi Masika, Willie Paul.
Hapo kwa Wilpol tunarudi tena.
Hapo unasema tunarudi.
Mimi naomba tu. Ule Mungu ulikuwa.
And now also recently, because I think watu wengi wajuangi, but pia I have played a big role in so kuleta mzungu mwitu to mzungu mwitu. Mzungu mwitu alikuanga tu the Reverend Dad without the whole brand and everything. Yeah, so pia
shout out to you mzai. Mtu wetu. Mtu wetu wa Tuko.
Mtu wetu wa Tuko. Yeah, so like mzae au ni watu I'm currently working with, mzae Moji, Guardian, yeah, there, and watu nimework nao kitambo. That is, your list ni endless. So najaribu hata kufikiria, I think I have worked with so many people.
Which I think is such an amazing thing.
TV.
Imagine, that's what I was going to tell you. Notutu ulikuwa unaona unasema, wow, but these are not people. Nikikwambia nisaidie uko nao hapa tu. Yeah. Which I think is very important for me, and the reason as to why I felt this story needed to be told, and like I was telling, we need to then finally ukaamua sawa, is because so many, we are a generation of, we want things quick, fast.
Yeah.
We want things, I've finished high school, I have a phone. You don't even have an itel, you have even an iPhone. And you want to start creating content to make it and you want to make money. It doesn't work like that. Lynn has moved from... Me, I'm still in shock because there are things sijajua. Yeah. There are things I've not known, that you would stay in streets, that you would wash clothes, and you know, we would not... Ukiona Lynn huku nje akisha tuvalia kicks, tunasema wow.
Kicks Kenya.
Wanilipe.
Kicks Kenya brand kubwa.
Imagine. So you see, it's for me, you telling this story is an inspiration for me myself. I've not gone through all that like this, but I know in life also, from before I got to where I was, it's also a progress.
Yeah.
And people need to understand that that in life it's a progress. You don't wake up and you're who you are because of who you are. And that's why I felt like this story needed to be told. Not only for that, and also to see the other side, like you said. Domestic violence is something we do a lot on our shows. There are so many women who come and tell us I've been beaten, I was what.
And people think it's normal. Like, kuna
exactly. Washazoea. And that's the thing. Don't do that. Don't stay and say it's for my children. You have had it from a child who has gone through it and she said, I hated it. So I'm super, super proud of you. And I'm so grateful that you accepted to come here and tell us this story. I'm proud of you. And there's more. This is just but the start of who Lynne The Brand is.
Yeah.
Now, ukikuwa rich and famous out here on Vogue and CG, what are the other and Forbes? Where's the how wengine? Mimi kama Lilesha najiongelelea. Don't forget about me. Please. Yeah. I mean, as we conclude, you can just tell us what your parting shot is. And if someone wants to work with you, they're here. Please, Willie Paul, we are still calling on you. Someone wants to work with you. Because mimi kuna kitu walifanya that inani upset so much.
Yeah,
so much. You cannot be here with the lady saying a story of being raped is not a normal story. And then after that, you come and say you forgive it because you are chasing clout, and it
was not necessary.
It takes me out. I'm like, this man needs, I don't know.
See, nowadays they are saying lazima. My parting shot, I really love talking to ladies because I know, like, there are so many women who are going through, so many young girls who are going through a tough time. They are trying to make something out of themselves and they feel like yani wamefika mwisho, they are almost giving up. Wanaona solution imebaki ni kulala na mzee fulani, masponyo and all that. So I really love to be an encouragement to young girls, and my parting shot will be don't give up, don't lose hope, and don't compromise. Imagine, like, tusikuwa watu wa kupenda shortcuts. Njia refu kuanga very stressful, ni tiresome, but hizo fruits ni long lasting.
And you love it. Even you say that ukinuna kwa kamazi upike chai unasema hii chai bana.
Nasikianga vizuri. Like, yani nikibaitu hata the smallest thing, I'm like, yani ni my hard work. I am proud of myself. So it doesn't matter what you're going through right now. It doesn't mean it's the end. It doesn't mean it's the end. So don't give up. Shikilia tu hapo hapo. Pray, keep yourself prayed up, because mimi I'm a very, prayerful person. So keep yourself prayed up. And consistency is key. So in everything that you're doing, please be consistent. When I was starting, tulianza tukiwa wengi. And nowadays napatananga na watu wananiambia, mazee wewe ni ule umebaki solo, you know. So singe back hivyo if at all singekuwa consistent. So consistency is key. Stay consistent, work hard, pray, and please don't give up. Don't give up. Yes. Whatever it is that you're going through right now, stay permanent. There's no permanent situation. There's no permanent situation. It's temporary.
If I want to help
so if
me,
you
how
want
do I find you?
The way Aisha is very poor when it comes to Twitter, of course, anataka nitafute after hapa tuongee mambo mbili tatu. So you can find me on social media at Lynne The Brand. Lynn is Lynne The Brand across all digital platforms. And you can also find my company at Foley Agency across all digital platforms.
We'll make sure to put that hapo because Foley tunaweza shindwa kuispell.
So Foley is F-O-L-I.
Oh,
yes.
I thought you were going to say A with U-O-L.
F-O-L-I.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, man, again, I'm so grateful for being, an inspiration to so many. Even myself, you have talked to me and I feel like it doesn't matter because we've talked aside and there are things that are not working, but you've still told me, no, what Aisha, keep at it.
Imagine, because we usually say if niko place niko yake hakuna mtu hawezi.
You're right. Wow, I'm grateful and shout out to everyone who thought that Lynn was worth working with and she worked with you and she put you up where you are. Shout out to all of you. We go to the same church with Mujishot Baba. Bariako sir. So yeah, thank you again. And for you guys at home, you're watching us and you're in a place you're just thinking, what is this? Diamond says in a song, Yatapita. Please, as Lynn has said also, Yatapita. It's just a season. That's the thing about life. Today something happens, we move to problems will still come. Don't think that the problems will never come. Even as she is, doesn't mean that her life is just like this. It's not how life works. But it means you can always get out of it and get to a better place and move. As she said, be consistent. So thank you very much, guys, for bringing us throughout this whole episode of Tuko Talks. Been such an inspiration. And again, thank you very much, Lynn. Thank you for tuning in. And always remember, you can always find us. If you have a story, do email us. Our emails are provided below. If you have anything, if you want to just tell me something, my email is provided there below. And also remember to subscribe because we are here for you and you're here for us. Thank you very much, my Tuko family. My name is Lynn, and until next time, do enjoy the rest of your time.